Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people should exercise caution when viewing this video. It contains images of deceased persons. The stories in this video focus on the many issues regarding the stolen generations, which may cause distress.
Gail, welcome to part 2 of our Sorry Day presentation, which is all about justice. Now remember, Sorry Day is about truth, justice and healing. We can't have justice unless we know the truth, and we can't have healing unless we know truth and justice. Yakai!
John Pat Day is an event organised by the WA Deaths in Custody Watch Committee. It's the 35th anniversary of the death of John Pat, who was just 16 when he died in police custody. In 1991, a Royal Commissioner said his death was a nationwide symbol of injustice and oppression for Aboriginal people.
And I've seen a lot of my people die in custody. You know, I've spoken at funerals. I said, where is the duty of care? I said, they're meant to take care of us, but they don't.
Uncle Ben Taylor is an Aboriginal activist and lifetime member of the committee. He says he has too many personal stories related to deaths in custody to count.
I keep battling on and telling my story, and I've been protesting for the last 30, 40 years. All my old protesters, my old friends, Noahs, Riverman people, they're all gone to rest, fighting the battle that I'm still fighting now, the injustice, and it'll keep going on and on. I've carried coffins up to Parliament House because of the deaths in custody and the dying of my people.
More than 400 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have died in custody since the end of the Royal Commission in 1991. In the wake of the Royal Commission, Western Australia was the first state to establish an Aboriginal Deaths in Custody Watch Committee.
We believe we can get where we're looking at, which is to stop deaths in custody in WA and to stop the overrepresentation of Aboriginal people in WA prisons.
Paul Kaplan is the campaign chair of the committee. The recent Deaths Inside investigation by The Guardian Australia showed WA to have the nation's highest number of deaths in custody. Mr Kaplan says that's why the committee must battle on.
And it is at times very difficult to get to the ear of the government, and that's where, to be honest, people power comes in. And if you can mobilise enough people into a campaign, you can get things done.
Mr Kaplan was drawn into the committee 10 years ago following the horrific death in a prison van of Aboriginal man Mr Ward, which ignited fierce campaigning. He says the committee lobbied and protested hard after Mr Ward's death, which later led to substantial reform.
There were changes to the Bail Act. The company that Mr Ward was in care of, G4S, their contract was cancelled. That's what was achieved by campaigning because of the anger that the whole community felt.
A more recent case that ignited a similar drive for change by the committee was the death of Yamatji woman Miss Dew in 2014, which attracted national coverage.
Miss Dew passed away, who was killed in the South Hedland lockup by police and the medical staff. They were both part of her death.
The committee says in 2018 there have already been 6 deaths in custody on record. Those deaths drive the committee to keep fighting for changes. Mr Kaplan is convinced those reforms are possible.
Short-term changes can be done almost immediately. We believe we can get a custody notification service up. The government, in fact, has promised us by the end of the year that they'll do that. Not going to jail for unpaid fines, as Miss Dew did and died because of that. Proper medical facilities in lockups in WA prisons, whereby so many Aboriginal people are dying because of ill health and lack of treatment in there.
Uncle Ben says keeping his people out of jail is the best step, and the best way to do that is through community healing.
We need healing spaces for these young people. In prison we need more communities. Don't build jails, build communities where they can go out and work and get our group therapy from us elders.
There are more long-term issues that will take time. That question of racism in our society and how we deal with that. The intergenerational trauma that many Aboriginal families have to endure, and the poverty and the homelessness are more long-term. But there are definitely immediate changes that take place that will save lives, that will stop most, I would say, deaths in custody.
The Deaths Inside investigations show, despite the horrific number of deaths in custody since the Royal Commission, there has been a decrease. The committee says by pushing for coronial inquests, being a thorn in the side of politicians and continuing their fight for justice, Aboriginal deaths in custody will hopefully stop.
But I'll always be there for the people, old as I am, and you can kill the soul and you can kill everything. You cannot kill the spirit.
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
The next segment is about Josie Boyle. Sadly, Josie passed away since the segment last year. I want to acknowledge the work that she's done, being an amazing songwriter, singer and artist.
Gaia, hello. We're introducing Josie Boyle to the show today to talk about Sorry Day and what it means to her, the relevance to all our listeners out there. So welcome to the show, Josie.
Oh, yeah.
I hope you're feeling well.
Yep. Today I am.
Good, good. So let's talk about you, Josie. What happened to you? Why are you a member of the Stolen Generations?
I was born in 1941, a long time ago, way out in the middle of the scrub country, out at the lake. We call ourselves the Lake People, and that's where I was born, out there in Western Australia, in near Mount Margaret, and we were on a mission called Mount Margaret Mission, and I was there for a long, long time. So when I came out of the mission, there was a big journey ahead of me to learn who I was. Was I Miwa, or was I whoever, so you had to come and learn about yourself when you came out into this world.
You mentioned Mount Margaret Mission, but when were you taken there?
We were taken there, yeah, but I think I went in there about 3 years old.
Right.
And stayed there for most of my life and lived there. But I was lucky that we had our family that visited us, from time to time. So I used to see my mum. She used to come and visit us. But since the Sorry Day happened, I went on a self-discovery journey on myself.
Right.
And now I'm very comfortable with the Sorry Day, very comfortable. And I can talk about it today, with no feelings of frustration or what happened in those times.
Right.
I'm very comfortable because I found out just on my self-discovery journey, it's all right to be who you are, and be different.
Yeah. So how long were you in the mission?
Probably from 3 years old till about 15, 16.
And then what happened? You left the
said,
gold fields?
Yeah, and they said, well, everybody can go now, so your time's up, you can go. So I chose to get on a truck and come here to Perth.
A truck to Perth?
On a truck, yeah. And we all came here, and it was like us coming, like little refugees in your own country, coming here. And of course we found our way to Perth, and some didn't want to come, so I chose to come to Perth. And boy, it was a lot of learning to do.
Wow. I've never heard ourselves referred to as refugees, so why do you think
that's
you were a
what it
refugee?
felt like. In our own country, just coming up the road virtually.
15 years of age. And where did you land when you got to Perth?
Well, we went to the famous Bennett House in Wellington Street, because that was a place where anybody could go if you were, you didn't have much with you, so...
But it was a place for lots of young girls, wasn't it?
It was for girls, yeah. So we
girls coming out of mission?
Coming out of mission.
Because my mother was there.
Exactly, we all were there.
Okay, so how many...
We drifted then, so you went drifting sort of around to, plant your feet somewhere, plant your seed to where you're going to be and where you're going to go.
So all these young girls, young ladies came from regional areas, from missions.
From different places.
And were at Bennett House, which later became Jack Davis House.
We met a lot of girls and people.
Corner of Bennett and Royal Street. And how long were you there?
Well, till it started to improve a bit. Every day something happened that was different. So, and then they opened up hostels. Remember the hostels?
Yes.
Where we all went in Mount Lawley, there was hostels there. So you could get jobs there, and you stayed there till you was able to get a job. And
go back to Bennett House then.
Bennett House was the first landing for us to come, the
so
soft
you
landing.
Went out to work from there?
Yeah. No, we didn't get jobs much, at Bennett House. We sort of went to the next level for the hostels.
And which hostel were you at?
Well, it's Mount Lawley. Mount Lawley had 2 hostels there.
Which one
for
was
the
that?
girls.
Yeah, Corinda.
Well, the one I had, we called it Vale Road. In Vale Road in Mount Laurel.
Okay.
And we all went there and got jobs and started to get up the ladder a bit more. But it's been a really self-discovery journey for me. You know, I've found out who I am and the person I want to be today from the stolen generation times and the sorry days that I've heard, you know, when they said the sorry word to everyone. I found that it helped a lot of people and healed them, you know, so their story is not my story to tell, but watching the people on TV, it seemed like it was a relief to the people, you know, that they heard the word sorry, you know.
Right. So we went from you went from Bennett House to a hostel, Alvin House,
yes,
which later became Katakutu.
Exactly.
Now all these hostels had mission kids.
Exactly.
I was
from
one of
all
them.
around.
I was one of them, but I wasn't in the mission.
From all around, yeah, from all around.
So there was a lot of brothers and sisters because they're all mission kids, in each of the hostels.
In each, from all around.
So your road to rediscovery, that started at Alvin House or where?
Exactly. It goes long way back, the stories, you know, so.
Right. Josie, you're an amazing role model for stolen generation people because you sing as well.
I know, I do. I'm what do you call it, a recording artist, and I do a lot of singing and I do a lot of storytelling.
And the good thing about your songs, they're not all in English.
I sing in my language.
Sing in
yes.
language.
At least I've got a little market of my own.
Right. We should get you
Don't
to
have to
sing a song in
compete
the
with the
studio,
world.
but that might be another time.
Yeah.
So
No, but-
you're singing though. How does that feel for you?
Well, singing is good for the soul, for everyone,
Good for
you know.
healing.
I mean, you got to sing every day.
Therapy.
It's therapy, yeah. Everyone needs to sing, you know, or listen to music. You know, music is the soul, you know, of the world.
And it goes back to our old people too.
And we used to sing a lot in the mission, of course. You know, we had choirs and then we were able to come here and sing when we came here. So, and then having our language, it's like a bonus as well, you know.
So what's the way forward then for Josie Boyle?
Be comfortable with yourself. And my message to people today is hang around people that are honest, people
Positive.
that are open, for you to be comfortable with yourself. And it's all right to be on your own and learn about yourself more, you know, because you've got lots of hidden talents inside you that you need to bring out, and be comfortable with yourself, and comfortable because it's just a noisy world out there.
It is. Now listen, you call yourself Wangai.
Yep.
You're living on Noongar country.
Yes.
How does that feel?
Well, Noongar people are family to me because we came here and mixed with them, see, so I've been with them for a long time, you know, and they were people that were hosts to us, and they opened up the country for us when we came.
Right.
And they took us to the reservation, you know, behind the airport there. It was a big reservation for the Noongar people.
Yeah.
And we sat there with them, listened to their stories, they listened to ours, and we grew up with them.
Josie, there's a lot we can say today, but I think it's been really a wonderful opportunity for you to be on the show and talk to us on this sorry day, 2020. You know, it's been a long time since that report was tabled, and I'm looking forward to talking to you some more. So it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And talking to all those people out there to explain your situation and how we're going to move forward in the future. Thank you for being on the show.
Now that you
And in the studio today we've got Gail, Yorkshire, and Warren, Yorkshire. Both these people I've known for a long time, and we're going to be talking to them about their history and what they think of Sorry Day. Because this program's all about Sorry Day, because there's not going to be a Sorry Day this year. And we're going to go live to people from the internet. So Gail, tell me your story. Where were you from and where were you taken to? Where were you removed to?
First of all, I was only an 18-day-old baby, born near Borden, southwest of Western Australia, in Noongar country, and taken to the native settlement of Noangarup, which later was called Noangarup Mission. There I was raised with many other little babies, and along with my brother Warren and Terry. It was a pretty hard life. It was a very upsetting life, but unknown to me, we are the fourth generation of stolen children and stolen people from country and land that was so free and so beautiful to our people.
I'm so glad you mentioned the many generations of removal, because far too many times you hear stolen generation.
Yes.
Now our organisation is the West Australian Stolen Generations Aboriginal Corporation. So how long were you in Noangarup and where did you go from there?
We were in Noangarup from our birth to 1960. We were put in in 1954. I was, and Warren's only 11 months younger than me, so we were both placed there together. Like after I was born, he came along, and naturally he was placed in the same home. And 1954, I was there, and then in 1965, we all of a sudden came home from school and put in a car and taken away from what we knew as our own security, because that was the only place we knew as home. And then all of a sudden, finding ourselves waking up in Esperance.
Ooh, okay.
And then moving from Esperance up to a place called Norseman, Churches of Christ Mission.
So Fairhaven in Esperance was a mission too?
Yes, Fairhaven is like a mission, and Fairhaven was a place where young women and young girls develop and go into a hostel where we learned to work and amongst the community of Esperance, farms and housekeeping, maids.
So 3 stages then? Noangarup,
3 stages.
Fairhaven and Norseman missions.
That's right.
And so what age were you at Norseman?
I didn't see my 11th year birthday. So when I arrived at Norseman, it was at night, and we were pushed into a room, not pushed, but taken to this bedroom where myself, being the oldest, and 3 other girls all came from Noangarup. So there was Moira, Lorraine and Iris Woods that came along with me. And we're all cousins, you see, and so we, naturally sisters. And we were placed there, and it was I remember very clearly, it was a moonlight night, and I could see what I thought was water. But when I woke up the next day, it wasn't water, it was the sheds of the chook pen, sheds of the pig yards and things like that. So I thought, I thought it was going to be lovely there, but when I looked the next day, no.
So how long were you at Norseman then, and when did you leave Norseman?
1970.
Right.
I didn't want to leave my little brothers behind. When they said, you've got to go out and work now, and I said, well, can I not go? Because 15 years old, we were told to leave.
Right.
We were in the line. As soon as you turn 15, you leave the mission.
Right. So little brother.
2 little brothers I have, Terry and Warren. And
So let's go to Warren then.
yes.
Warren, your story is probably similar. But
Yeah.
tell us about you, the Warren Yorkshire story.
Well, my story is about I was really forcibly moved from my mother, forcibly removed. And I'm still asking questions, why was I removed from my mother? Still asking the questions. I haven't got an answer. They haven't given me an answer in my community welfare report. And to this day, I'm not only suffering because I wanted to know, because apparently she was a good mother, and why did they forcibly move me from her? And I stayed in that mission from being a little one all the way through, all my life. And it's been hard because, we were child slaves as children in there. We had to work 7 days a week.
So Warren, similar then from Noangrup, then to Norseman? Or was there a gap, or then Norseman, then Peddlers? So let's talk about that period.
Well, the gap, they transferred me to Norseman,
Right.
and I stayed there until I had to get kicked out. Right, I got kicked out. I always say the suitcase they gave me. No money, nothing. No home to go to. And being traditional people or being cultural people, we knew how to stay along the coast there and stay there on the coast for so long. When, going to Peddler, staying at Peddler's Hostel. We worked in there, but we never got our proper wages. He didn't give us our wages, and we were that's where we were still fighting for, and we worked on all the farms and everywhere. And then I met up with my sister in town. She had a nice house, and I stayed there and I got comfort. And I rebuilt myself because of my sister, because I got the love and care from my sister.
Wow, big sister Gail.
Yeah, she cared for me.
Now, there's 2 things you've both touched on, and what you've touched on now is your cultural knowledge, which is a bit different to a lot of our stolen generations people. A lot of our people have not reconnected to country and culture. So that's an important thing for Sorry Day, isn't it?
It is.
So, Warren, can we move on, or did you want to touch on something else?
Well, with culture, we've always had culture in our history. It's always been taught from day one in our history. And Mum always used to say, not to me because I didn't met her, is that if they told us culture to the people in the mission, they would get jail. They were banned to even talk lingo language to their children in the mission. And that was sad because they didn't have an identity of talking their culture frequently, which they could have been proud for.
We were given hidings.
With culture, if I take people out and teach them about country and teach them about the spiritual connections, they're much, much better people. They're much, much better people. They feel that they're wanted people because you teach them their culture, because that is their culture, to learn that. Because our culture is about love and trust and sharing with people.
Warren, you talked about not having to practice culture. A lot of people need to understand that between 1930 and 1960 there was a read out the colour policy brought in place by government. So you're talking here about the taking away of your culture in in the mission.
Yes.
So how is that relevant then to what you feel about Sorry Day now?
I still, I thank Sorry Day because they're so important, and they know that if our younger people can learn their lingo and learn their culture and learn their sorry line and their story line to country, it makes them feel better that they you know, it's spiritually a strong connection to them as human beings, and they're going to come out stronger because today they've got nothing, nothing today to look forward to. Because see, we can take them out to country and learn them all the things, learn them all about everything on land. And Sorry Day with people, bringing all those back towards those young people who haven't got culture in the community today. They haven't. They're lost. They're a lost people because they got no identity, and they're bringing back those identities to those young people today. And I think that's a great thing.
Wow, that puts a lot of onus and responsibility back to you both now, because you're both strong in culture. Mm-hmm. You've survived the removal. You've been through many missions.
Yeah.
Most of our mob go to one mission.
Yes.
What, you've been to 3?
Yeah.
You've been to 3. Okay, so why is that important to tell your children, our children, anyone who's listening now? Why is it important?
Oh, you kids out there, you young people out there, this drug world that we're living in now is not our world. It's not.
Not our culture.
Not our culture. And so I'd like to say to our young people, we can turn around and we can change things. We can, because we've been given that opportunity from the elders around Norseman when we were there in the mission. Our families took us out of the home, and we used to go out rabbiting and going out and getting stones out of the ground and learning how valuable all these things were as Aboriginal people and as Aboriginal children. And then today, my way of healing through this journey of being stolen is to teach the younger generations that there is something better.
Yes.
And we can go back to culture if only you allow that.
Yes.
We can if you only seek for that help. We used to be able to take them years ago, but the insurance policy stopped us. So, but we are still doing it because all my children practice traditional culture and law, and I speak my languages. In fact, I speak a few languages, which helps in the interpreting services of Western Australia. So that is to me a healing journey, and I don't have to look at that bad past. I don't have to dwell on that past, even though it hits me every day I wake up. Because when I hear the little ones say, Mum, it's always Nana. Mum's not there. So Nana, as that Nana, I love to continue to do that. And I get people that live off the street and don't have anywhere to sleep or eat. And I teach them culture, and we show them what we got, and we give them the love and support that they need. 3 meals a day and a speech of your culture and tradition. What a blessing. Best dictionary you can have on this earth.
So Gail, Yorkshire, Warren, Yorkshire, 2 strong Aboriginal people taken from the land, removed from culture, family, community, language, now making it a strong contribution to our society, our Aboriginal people.
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot of our survivors were not connected to culture. So Warren, Gail, thank you so much for being part of the program today. I'm sure there might be something else you want to finish off on.
I think too with being with Sorry Day, it's getting people to get out into the community with other people in stolen generation, having that connection
it just giving them a smile on their face, you know. Those people that, you know, when they're all together, say that people do really care, that people do understand, and having that connection, just saying a few words, just saying hello, you know, that's what Sorry Day is really so I'm so proud of, you know, because yeah, it's rather than being locked in a flat or somewhere and have nowhere to go to you know, for someone to say hello, you're having connections, communication with other people. Yeah. And that's the main important thing, communication with other people.
Mm. And I truthfully like the word, you know, for our people. Like, I used to love getting together and seeing ex-mission children. They're all our brothers and sisters. But then down the track we find out, hey, we are all related.
Yeah.
And to know that we're all related, it brings our family closer.
Yeah.
And we thought we were strangers to one another, but now we're all one.
Yeah.
And that's why this journey that we are having together is so important. Mm. And the younger ones you know, they can see that, and then they hopefully, you know, just to see them dancing on Sorry Day is the first step and the most, you know, powerful step.
Yep.
To see them joining in and bringing this journey back again and doing it in a positive manner.
Good.
Not seeing all the negatives.
Yep.
So that's what I love about this journey that we're on now.
Well, once again, thank you, Gail and Warren, Yorkshire. It's so important to hear from you on this day, Sorry Day 2020.
Sorry Day, yes.
Thank you.
My name's Anne Hawke and I'm the CEO of Kinship Connections. I'm also the founder. I started fostering when I was about 19, so I've been a foster carer for the last 36 years. I have to tell the story of my grandparents before I talk about mine. My grandmother was born in Horse Creek and she was taken away to Moola Station. My grandfather was born in Broome and he grew up at Beagle Bay Mission. And when my parents met in Port Hedland and had 16 children, my mother was one of the eldest and she was removed from Port Hedland and grew up at Magumba Mission. And so when she came out of the mission at 16, she moved down to Perth to be a house cleaner for white families. And then when I was born, there was 5 of us siblings and we were all sent out to different areas. I had a sister that went to Holland. I had another sister that was adopted to farmers down in Katanning. I had a brother that was adopted out to Salvationists in Kalgoorlie. And I had another brother that was adopted out as well. Myself, I was taken into care when I was 4 years old, and I was taken to Sister Kate's, which is a home for quarter caste Aboriginal kids. I went to a lot of foster families. Some were good, some weren't so good, and so I always knew I wanted to be a foster carer, and that I could make a difference in someone else's life, because I didn't have a very good childhood. So sometimes when the kids hit around 11, 12, 13, they want to know who they are. You know, when I was on the training team with DCP, we covered the whole state, you know, going to see over 600 relative carers from the bottom end to the top end of WA. And some of those kids we saw were with fantastic carers. But the thing is they did not keep those kids connected. And I keep saying to them, yeah, you've grown them up beautifully, but if you do not keep that connection to their birth families, you will lose these kids when they reach 13, 14, because they want to know who they are and where they belong.
All the boys that we've got, they mainly live in the city, and they don't know what it's like to go out in the dark. So, you know, we've got to make sure we've got plenty of light for them, you know. A lot of the boys that we've got are traumatised, they all come from foster homes, and they don't know what it's like to go out in the bush. You know, it's very scary for them first off, you know. And slowly just trying to break them back into their cultural ways, you know.
Because these young fellas, they've got nothing, you know, and there isn't that male role model there. And they do. There's a lot of other things that, the positive that I can see coming out of, some of them might not have that respect, where maybe like with their grandmothers or their aunties, who, you know what I mean? They, well, they do. There are young fellas that haven't got that sort of respect and don't actually give a damn after a while, you know?
And a lot of our families, you know, a lot of our young men are now living in households with their nanas or with their aunties, and they actually don't know how to be Aboriginal men, or even to be Aboriginal either, because some of them are living with their white grandparents. So the healing camps really came up around the need that these young men are falling out of the system when they're hitting 16 and 17.
With the healing camps, the standout thing about it is you have the Aboriginal elders, and you know, they come with lifelong experience. It's something that you can't read out of a textbook or go to the local TAFE or the local university and get a degree in that. This is experience coming not only from here but from here with culture, and it's that first-hand learning.
Just teach them that. We got the like elderly men that'll come into our camps and talk to them about what's in this country, what's not, you know. Teach them all, you know, a bit of language, and like I said about the food they can grab and stuff. Yeah, but all these boys in the city know is, you know, KFC. They don't know what it's like to even have a feed of kangaroo meat or emu or catch marrons or stuff like that, you know. So that's what we want to just try and teach the younger ones, you know, about their culture, what's out there available for them.
Stay with us for more stories of Sorry Day, Yakai, healing our spirit. Hello, Delos.
Hello.
What do you want to say about your time at the mission?
My time at the mission, I think I was very unhappy, a very unhappy little girl. I cried at night for my mum and dad, and I think New Norcia, the nuns at New Norcia had no compassion, no love, no nurturing to give little kids like myself at the time.
How do you feel about it now, or how does it affect you now, your time in the mission?
It's taken over my whole life, because from a young age I was given Valium to keep me calm, and I feel I've never been without medication. So I feel as though my life was robbed by people, by the Benedictines, and I feel a bit bitter for what they did to me. Not only to me, but to a lot of other Nyungar kids, Nyungar boys and girls.
We're going to have to enlarge on some of this a little later. What do you tell your descendants, what do you tell your kids now about your experience at the mission?
I have one daughter who's 35, and I had a walk last week on the 27th of November, and I always tell her I love her, because I thought I'd never be around for her, because when I was very young, I jumped on a moving goods train, a moving goods train trying to take my life. And I don't know how I survived that, because if you've seen a moving goods train, the way it speeds, and I don't know how I survived, to be honest with you, because at that time something was just telling me to jump and to hurt myself. So I always tell her that I love her, and I always talk to my granddaughter, because I love them so much, and I always tell my daughter that I did my best for her. Yep. But I was always drugged up with medications that I fully didn't see her, if you know what I mean. Yep. because I was sort of like, when you're drugged up, you're not really the person. You take medication to keep you functioning, so they say. So I always talk to her to tell her to stay a strong yoga, strong Belladong yoga. And I talk to my granddaughter and tell her that, because she asks me, and she goes to St. Peter's School, and they don't understand what Nyunga's been through, the stolen generation. And she comes back and she talked to me, and I say to her, Nana was taken away, you know. So that's why Mummy and Nana and Pop, you know, never want you to be taken away, because you've got a family who love you, and it's important to tell our grannies that.
Oh, that's lovely. But what about when you left the mission? What did you do then?
The Native Welfare Act, well, from how my journey started was from Gemelling. There was a really bad, ugly, ugly man that hurt me. And so I used to go home telling my mum and dad, and they used to say, don't talk about the priest like that, you'll get punished, you'll go to purgatory, all this crap. And then he was in working with the police and the Native Welfare, this priest. So they decided to take me and they decided, not my mum and dad, that to take me to New Norcia. So I went to New Norcia with another girl. And this Native Welfare guy called Musi pulled up at the Wanganel swimming pool, and he went in for a swim and left me and my cousin in the car. And it was a stinking hot day, and he said to stay in the car, but I opened the doors to let the bit of breeze come in. Anyway, when he came out, we just jumped in the car. Well, we were already in the car. He jumped in, and then he took us to New Norcia. And that was the end. That was the place just from looking at the outside, you know, you could just, you knew it wasn't a good place because it was scary. And then New Norcia, it was a horrible place. It should be wiped off the map. It should be taken off the map for the cruel, cruel, terrible sexual abuse, but the running of the mission, you know, in the packing room, in the washing house, working big mangles, you know, burning yourself as little kids, in the chook yard, in the kitchen, polishing the floors until they shone, you know. And it was just a cruel, these nuns were just so cruel. And then from New Norcia, they sent me down to a foster family in Guildford. They were the Pratts. They were good people, they were good, they were English people, and they treated me good. But I didn't need to be there. I should have been home. I should have been given counselling for the damage that was done to me. So anyway, the young caseworker that I had, she told me that one day that my mum and dad had died. And I knew in my heart that they weren't, because you know, we have a bird or a sign. And my old nana used to say that, you know, we have a sign. But I knew in my heart that Mum and Dad wasn't dead. Where I'm living in Gemelling, they were only 25 k's in the next town, so they weren't dead. They were alive and well. So anyway, I was taken to the Newville. That was the old name of this girls' home, but it was, the nuns changed it then to the Home of Good Shepherds for Girls. It's where the CEO is now in Perth, and that's where I went. And this nun, I was like the token little girl. She fell in love with me, and her and her family wanted to give me their name Walsh. But I said no, because my name's a Phillips. That's my identity. You can't take that away from me. So I stayed there for years and years. And my daughter, this one nun, Sister Josephine Walsh, she is my daughter's godmother. So, yeah, so just being in institutions, you know. So from home of Good Shepherds, I met this terrible man because I wanted to leave home of Good Shepherds. So I picked up with this Wodgula bloke. He was a truck driver, but he was watching all the girls, not only me. He was watching, because at home of Good Shepherds, we all worked in the laundry again, of all places, laundry. So I got with him. You could probably say I used him just as much as he used me to get out of home of Good Shepherds. But he turned out to be a real monster. 13 years he treated me really bad, and in Derby he pulled a gun out and shot over my head because I wanted to leave with Ebony. And I ended up in Derby Hospital. And then it was in the paper, in the local, in the West Australian. That happened in 1995. But the police back then they were not good with Indigenous women because they said it was too much paperwork to fill out reports, because we'd always go back to our men, you know. So they didn't have a really good understanding of when you were beaten to a pulp, you know.
Thank you for watching part 2 of our Sorry Day presentation 2021. The next segment is about truth, part 3.